The novel coronavirus outbreak has a severe impact on the livelihood of households and business activities, resulting to drop in global demand for goods and services, declined consumer confidence, and slowdown in production, amongst others. The federal government, through the Central Bank of Nigeria and the Federal Ministry of Finance, Budget and National Planning, last month announced some monetary and fiscal measures to help mitigate the impact of coronavirus pandemic on the economy, Nigerian businesses, and households. Now, the CBN on its own announced 50 billion naira targeted credit facility as a stimulus package to support households and microfinance, small, and medium enterprises that are affected by the coronavirus pandemic. The TCF was designed to cushion the adverse effects of COVID-19 on households and MSMEs, support households and MSMEs whose economic activities have been significantly disrupted by the COVID-19 pandemic, and to stimulate credit to MSMEs and expand their productive capacity through equipment upgrade and research and also development. The Nigerian incentive-based risk-sharing system for agricultural lending, which manages the funds, have received applications in excess of 80,000. The managing director of Narsel Microfinance Bank, Abubakar Kure, says people whose applications were successful would start having access to their facilities this week. The 50 billion naira targeted credit facility is financed from the Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises Development Fund, which the CBN launched in 2013 with a share capital of 220 billion naira facility. Now, the facility has maximum limit of 25 million for SMEs, while the amounts that can be assessed will be decided on the basis of activities, cash flow, and industry size of each beneficiary. I have the Chief Executive Officer, Okari Asset Limited, Mr. Johnson Chuku, joining me via Skype for Lagos Island. And I also have joining me the President of the Nigerian Association of Small and Medium Enterprises, Mr. Degun Agboade. Mr. Degun, thank you very much for joining us on the show.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
So let's talk about intervention funds now at this very critical time. It's COVID-19 and we know what's been happening. Lockdown, it's almost 4 weeks now, and many are already talking about an extension. How are small businesses coping with this this time?
Thank you so much. Like you rightly said, we at Nigerian Association of Small and Medium Enterprise that I have the privilege to lead at this time, we want to thank the government and appreciate the gesture. Now, going forward, how do we assess it? Assessing so that it will not go the same way the previous one went. We suggested to CBN that we should have a stakeholders meeting to look at the modality. Now, the OPS, Organized Private Sector, for which NASME is a staunch member, we have agreed that after applying to Extra Direct, we should collect our names, and then from MAN, from NASIMA, from NASME, NASI, and all that. You know, that one cuts across, MSME cuts across all the BMOs. So we give them our list, and they will make sure that those that are really assessing are the practitioners of MSME. Now, your second question, how we are coping, I tell you, it's been extremely difficult. Like you can see, most of our members, they have even not gone to their places of work in the last 2-3 weeks. And what does that mean? Even to get, most of them live on daily income stream. And if they are not getting it, will be there. So, and like you know, MSME is in three categories: the micro, okay, the small, and the medium. And of course, the ratio of the micro is about 98% of all MSME figures that the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics gave us, that stand at 41.5. So what am I saying? The bulk of MSME component is in the informal sector. And it will be difficult to reach this informal sector if we don't approach it in a manner that will be transparent, and we will also see the effect physically.
Hey, now let me ask Mr. Johnson Chukwu. We have Mr. Johnson Chukwu now live. He is on via Skype. Mr. Johnson, it's good to have you join us on the show this Friday.
Thank you, Tolu, for having me.
Yes, I don't want to ask if you're enjoying this lockdown, because I know, of course, you've also been working from home one way or the other. But I'm worried. We've been hearing a lot about this fund, this 50 billion naira, this targeted credit facility in excess of 80,000 for the application, and I think they were expecting about 40,000, and all of this, all around this. How does this come to you? How would you assess this effort by the Apex Bank to help small businesses, households, and all of that, particularly at this time?
So I think it is, for me, it's one of the most important interventions that we have today, because a lot of small and medium scale enterprises are going to be very negatively affected by this lockdown. The simple thing that we know a lot of businesses that operate on very thin capital base. And what has happened over the past period of 4 weeks, they have been living on their capital base, and they have exhausted it completely. So even with lockdown lifted next week, they won't have money to resume their normal business activity. You have the people, young men and women who are on the road hawking granules, hawking handkerchiefs. Well, how do you think they survive? They earn 1,000 naira, 2,000 naira in a day, and including those who are carrying banana around after vehicles. They live on those income on a daily basis. So if their capital is 100,000, for instance, and they live on average on even 1,000 in a day, in the last 28 days or so that we're going to have the lockdown, they would have spent with 8,000 naira. If they're living on 2,000 naira, they would have spent something like 56,000 naira of their money. And imagine if they have families. So what will happen is when you reopen the economy, they will have nothing to return business. So this 50 billion that the central bank earmarked for intervention to support the most affected households and small and medium enterprises is very apt. And I just hope they have to work on it. Of course, they say they're going to go through the National Microfinance Bank to disburse these funds. I hope there are branches of that bank everywhere in the country. But I also think they should also leverage on existing microfinance banks that are littered all over the country, because a lot of these small business operators use the microfinance banks. We may also need to explore the informal sector, for informal system, like the Isusu system, the cooperative system. These are some of them that are underbanked and unbanked, use this system and the cooperative system where they contribute money on a weekly basis. And then if you go to those societies or cooperative societies, they will be able to identify their customer. They will guarantee them so the government can provide some level of soft credit to these people. Otherwise, the impact of the economic impact of this health crisis will be more severe than the health crisis itself, because these people come out with nothing, and if they don't have anything to feed themselves, they may become social deviants. And so we must do everything to avoid that.
Okay, great. Let me now ask Mr. Degu. Mr. Degu, you are the president of NASME. One thing that worries me when it comes to SMEs, and I'm sure worries other Nigerians, is the issue of data. How well do we have data of those operating small businesses in Nigeria? How well are we doing with managing these figures?
Honestly, I agree with you. It's a matter of worry, of concern also to us. We have not done much, but we've made some effort. And data is key. If we don't have the numbers, how do we plan? So when we know this, we now put up our thinking caps to see if the methods we have applied in the past have yielded enough result or good result. If not, I agree it has not, then we should look at other novel ways of, for instance, we suggested from, NASMED suggested that all these people should be, those that are registrable, should be registered free of charge, right? If they hear that, they will come up and register, and they will widen the tax net and then validate the database. But if we leave it at, let's ask them to come and pay, and if they don't come, you can't take them to court. So we need to look at it. Which method do we adopt? Because if we don't, to formalize the informal sector, if the informal sector is not formalized, there is no way we can get the data. So we just need to now consider, is it by stick, which I hope cannot work, I think cannot work, or by carrot, which I think can work. And if you register them free of charge now, two benefits. One, you will capture them to be on the budget, on the list that we have, okay? But again, the other advantage is that government will be able to reach them, even for the palliative we are talking about. So, to answer your question, the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics that said we have 41.5, I think they may not be able to prove it if down is cast and we go to the grassroots to verify. And the reason is not far-fetched. Many of these micro people don't have permanent address. So the address they put in today, by maybe 2-3 months, is shifted. And of course, the effect of this COVID-19 lockdown is unprecedented. I assure you, in fact, those that registered in an address may not be able to go back to those addresses again. So it makes it complicated, makes the issue of data complicated. And of course, there is no problem without a solution. But if we try these ones that we are suggesting, it will increase the database. Gradually, we will get them and widen the tax net, even which will be a benefit for. Again, part of it is that we are even suggesting that all MSMEs, no matter the category out of the three, either micro, small, or medium, should be taxed on a different tax regime. Different tax regime in a sense that all the taxes in the state, in the local government, everything, federal, put them together and find a common umbrella for all of this. Because when you say duplicity of taxes, they will say no, tax is different from levy. But for us, what we are saying is put everything together and then then find a kind of formula to say, hey, maybe 1%, 2% of your turnover, you can get that one. And it will be very small indeed. But if we start from a small point, it will lure many people into the tax net, and then we will be able also to capture them and enrich the data.
Okay, Mr. Degu, let me ask Mr. Johnson. Now, we're talking about data here very importantly. Mr. Johnson, moving on, a lot of expectations and production is on the low side, low outputs. We know what's happening with the crude oil markets. How do you see SMEs patching up post-COVID-19? A lot of issues people are looking at this time. Just tell us in straight terms what you are expecting.
I think the SMEs, like every other sector of the economy, are going to have some difficulties or encounter difficulties in the economic space. We should expect that the economy will go into a recession because of one, low crude price, and two, low demand for crude. And these are going to impact our ability to access foreign exchange. It will affect the ability of government to earn revenue. It will affect the ability of government to spend. So you're going to see a slowdown in government expenditure, which will also lead to a contraction in the overall economic activity. So the demand for the services and the products of the SMEs will encounter some level of depression or contraction. So I expect these SMEs to now look at their cost profile and look at how do they manage their costs. It's going to be a period of cost leadership, because when you can really grow your revenue by actually pushing into the market, your next best option is to manage your costs. The other thing I would expect the SMEs to also look at what are those alternative delivery channels that are going to leverage on the quick adoption of technology that we are witnessing today, so as to minimize their operating costs. For instance, why would an SME come and set up a business operation somewhere in Lekki or VI or Ikoyi? What's wrong with Ikorodu? And then you realize that some of the services you provide will not require you to be physically present in a central business district. So people should look at how do we keep our costs low. Keeping your costs low will also involve some level of cost sharing. If you are co-locating with other business operators in your line of business, you can share some of the costs, like energy costs. You can contribute money and buy a generator instead of each and everyone having his own generator. And then you fuel it collectively and share the cost of maintenance. That way, you're going to bring down your costs. So I think the focus of our SMEs will be cost leadership, keeping your cost profile low, avoiding massive investment in capital assets at this point in time, and also looking for alternative channels of distributing or delivering your services to the consumers. Because it's starting that we should expect a slowdown in economic activities.
Mr. Johnson, a follow-up to that. In 60 seconds, I'd like you to also look at where SMEs face other challenges. And one thing that worries me, I asked Mr. Degun earlier, is the issue of data. Data seems to be very important. We have financial constraints, lack of infrastructure. We can go on and on. We've been talking about all of this for a while. Poor marketing, lack of strategic planning. But the focus is how well, because when there is data, government can plan, central bank can plan, there can be proper planning. So that's where I'm looking at it. Don't we need to straighten up all of this?
Yes, we do. Unfortunately, even the data we have is disaggregated. It's in silos. You don't have a central database you can go and get a lot of information you need. For instance, an SME that is into a particular manufacturing, you need to be able to access information on where you have source of raw materials within the country. You may not have that. But these are constraints we are living with. Some of the financial information or statistical information are now available at the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics, but they may not be so relevant to the SMEs. Information on source of raw materials, market size, demand pattern, demographics are not easily available to the SMEs. For instance, sectorial reports are provided sometimes by some of the big audit firms, sometimes by some of the consulting and rating agencies in the country. But like I said, they are inside of disaggregated and you can't really access them. And if you have to access them, they are quite expensive for the SMEs, which also takes you to the issue of cost pooling again, I mentioned earlier, where they can come together and buy information on the market size, the performance of the market, or commission a consultant to provide that information to them. I know a bank like Bank of Industries have consultants that they engage who are supposed to handhold the SMEs in a lot of getting information and putting their structures in place. Right. But for SMEs, some of the SMEs may not even be aware of this. That some information can be provided to them by the by BOI. There's also an enterprise department, enterprise development department in Lagos Business School that also support SMEs. But unfortunately, many of them are not aware of this. I think it's for them to come together and pull resources and then gain access to some of this at lower cost.
Mr. Johnson Chukwu, it's always a pleasure talking to you. Thank you very much for your time. Mr. Degun, I still have you before I let you go. In 60 seconds, round it up for me. Other challenges that SMEs face. How are they coping? Let's move away now from only financing. It's not only financing that you guys are grappling with.
You are right. Yes, thank you so much. It is true, there are other challenges. Now, even those of us that are making products, when you come to our exhibition, you will marvel how, what people are producing. But the problem is marketing. Marketing is key. And what we are saying is that let there be business linkage. Let there be business linkage. For instance, the ShopRite of this world, let the government make a pronouncement to say that all that they will be selling in such big markets and malls should take a percentage of the product of MSME. Like if you sell ShopRite, anything you want to store, we don't know where, 15% of what is in your store must be from MSMEs. That is one business approach, linkage. Another one is those big companies. Then you can get some MSMEs, attach them to such companies like Liver Brothers. There are some of these items that Liver Brothers, they
have to wrap it up now, President.
Yes, yes. So those are the areas, and by the time we have the opportunity, we still talk of other ways, other problems other than finance.
Of course, I know that. Thank you very much, the President of Nigerian Association of Small and Medium Enterprises. That's Mr. Egun Agboade. Thank you for your